Everyone knows that hot dogs tend to have some pretty dirty secrets. Still, some of the shocking facts behind these tasty treats are bound to give anyone pause for thought. Here are some of the things you don't know, and probably don't want to know, about hot dogs. Everyone's heard horror stories about finding foreign objects in their food. Fast food joints tend to be big culprits, but the reality is, sometimes things go wrong during food processing, and items you don't really want to eat end up in your favorite fare. Unfortunately, hot dog manufacturers can't claim a clean record on this front. In 2018, 38 people reported to the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service that they had found foreign objects in their hot dogs. Of course, 38 people is a small number given how many hot dogs are consumed each year. But remember, those are just the ones who took the time to file a report. So what types of items have people found in their Franks? Well, according to Time magazine, they include a piece of rubber band, small pieces of plastic, a clump of hair, the tip of a razor blade, glass shards, a piece of bone, and what appeared to be some kind of insect larva. While that list is enough to make a person swear off hot dogs for life, Time's article does also point out that hot dog recalls are relatively rare, so you can mostly trust the hot dogs you buy. Mostly. When you're starving and don't have a minute to spare, you might be tempted to hit up the fridge, grab a hot dog, and eat it cold, right? Like other sandwich meats, hot dogs are already cooked, so this shouldn't cause too much of a problem. And yet, hot dogs are actually frequent offenders for food poisoning. According to an article published by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the issue comes down to hot dogs being contaminated with Listeria monocytogenes after being processed and packaged. The FDA's clear advice is to always reheat hot dogs until they're steaming hot. And if you can't reheat a hot dog before eating it, you need to find something else to eat. It's just not a good idea to eat it cold, straight from the packaged wiener. So you probably know that your hot dog usually comes stuffed inside a casing. This casing gives the hot dog its shape and helps keep all the juices inside. If you've ever pricked a hot dog with a fork before putting it in a pot of boiling water or in the microwave, what you're doing is opening up the casing just a smidge to allow steam to exit the casing while the hot dog cooks. What you might not realize, though, is that whenever a label says natural casing, what that really means is that the hot dog is encased in animal intestines. Here's the thing, though. It might sound gross, but this is neither unsanitary nor unhealthy. In an interview with HuffPost, Boyd Edelman, president of hot dog manufacturer Sabrett, explained that the intestines are completely cleaned before being used, so there's no risk of fecal contamination. And when you choose hot dogs with natural casings, you're helping reduce food waste and promote consuming the whole animal when animals are butchered for food. That said, if you can't stomach eating animal intestines, look for skinless hot dogs. These are prepared with cellulose casings that are removed before packaging. When you think hot dog, you think meat, right? What else could a hot dog possibly be? And if you take time to read ingredient labels, meat is typically listed as the first ingredient, usually followed by water. But that's not exactly true. According to a study published in 2008 in the Annals of Diagnostic Pathology, scientists analyzed 8 different brands of hot dogs to determine what exactly each hot dog consisted of. While meat was listed as the first ingredient across the board, the actual muscle meat in each brand ranged from just 2.9% to 21.2% by volume, while water accounted for 44% to 69% of the weight of each hot dog. So yeah, your hot dog is mostly water and a little bit of meat. And what else, you might ask? Well, if you really want to know, it's a variety of tissues including bone, collagen, blood vessels, plant material, peripheral nerve, adipose tissue, cartilage, and skin. But if it helps at all, the study also noted that brain tissue was not present. Hey, thank goodness for small blessings. So you know that your hot dog mostly contains meat and some other stuff, but you probably want to know what part of the body these tissues are being derived from. Well, hopefully you already understand that hot dogs aren't exactly chock full of prime-cut beef or pork. After all, it's not like you're paying an exorbitant amount for your package of dogs even when you buy the high-end variety, so you're obviously going to be eating meat that's considered lower grade. Hot dogs start with meat trimmings. This basically means that the meat is taken from the leftovers of an animal after all the other better cuts of meat are cut away. These trimmings may come from lower-grade muscle, fatty tissues, head meat, animal feet, animal skin, blood, liver, and other edible slaughter byproducts. And that head meat is literally what it sounds like, by the way. Meat removed from the bones of an animal's head, which may include the cheeks.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
If this seems a little freaky, you can at least take solace in the fact that unless the hot dog ingredients include the label byproducts or variety meats, it won't contain meat from the snout or lips. It also won't include eyes or brains. Just remember, you typically get what you pay for, so buying kosher dogs or 100% beef, chicken, or pork hot dogs is likely to be a better option if you're trying to steer clear of the trimmings. Obviously, hot dogs aren't exactly a beacon of health. According to the Oscar Mayer website, the classic beef wiener contains 12 grams of fat and 360 milligrams of sodium. And that's just the hot dog, not taking any toppings or bun into account. And if you're chowing down on 2 or 3 dogs in a sitting, a single meal could rack up your fat and sodium intake pretty quick. Once in a blue moon, a meal like that won't do much damage. But if hot dogs are a staple in your weekly diet, it might be time to reassess. Do keep in mind, though, that there are lots of different varieties of hot dogs on the market, including chicken dogs, turkey dogs, and lower-fat beef or pork hot dogs. You can even find tofu or soy-based vegetarian versions. Each product will have its own nutritional information, and some might have lower levels of fat and sodium. Okay, here's the bottom line. Hot dog production is a pretty gross process. For example, depending on whether your hot dog contains meat or mechanically separated meat, as defined by the USDA, you may or may not be getting extra calcium in your hot dog. Extra calcium meaning bone shavings. Nice, huh? Then there's the deboning process. If your favorite hot dog uses the word meat in its ingredients, it was likely separated from the animal using so-called meat recovery systems, which shave and scrape the meat off the bone. The chances are, however, that your favorite hot dog contains mechanically separated meat, which is made via a totally different process. Now, the USDA might call hot dog meat a batter-like or paste-like meat product, which isn't exactly appetizing, but hey, it still sounds better than white slime, right? Bad news, though. When you buy hot dogs that include the phrases mechanically separated meat or mechanically separated poultry in the ingredients, this is the stuff you're eating.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
White slime is what results when the bone of what's left of an animal and the remainder of the tissue is forced under high pressure through a sieve, pumping out the edible portions while leaving the bones behind. The edible portions come out in a paste-like substance that essentially amounts to meat sludge. It's this sludge that gets pumped into casings before being cooked and packaged into your favorite cookout treat. Luckily, it is possible to avoid this stuff. Just opt for those higher-end hot dogs, the ones that include the word meat on the label rather than MSM or MSP. You can eat those safe in the knowledge that they're totally slime-free. If you cook meat without using any seasonings, it'll usually end up with a gray or whitish color. And considering hot dogs are essentially unseasoned, pre-cooked meat, it makes sense that hot dogs should look gray or whitish. And yet most hot dogs on the shelves of your local grocery store have a nice pink or red hue. So what gives? Well, you have sodium nitrite and nitrate to thank for this. These compounds are used in processed meats to help preserve meat and add flavor, but they also help give these meats their appetizing pink or red color. A fresh-cut piece of steak is nice and red, but as it gets older, it loses its red color. This has to do with the myoglobin in meat turning red when bound to oxygen. Over time, oxygen falls away and the meat loses its red tint. Sodium nitrite, on the other hand, can bind to myoglobin in place of oxygen and create this same red hue. But unlike oxygen, it doesn't fall away as quickly, providing meat with a red tint for much longer. The problem here is that nitrites and nitrates have been linked to incidences of cancer. If you're concerned, look for hot dogs that are made without preservatives. Many people would do well to eat fewer hot dogs, but that's most people, and not the people involved in the weird world of competitive eating. For the world-famous Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest, which is held annually on the 4th of July, competitive eaters have 10 minutes to stuff their faces with as many hot dogs and buns as they can. In 2018, a new world record was set by Joey Chestnut when he demolished 74 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Think about that for a second. 74 hot dogs. If contestants are consuming Nathan's skinless beef franks, Chestnut consumed 9,620 calories, 888 grams of fat, and over 35 grams of sodium in 10 minutes.
74 hot dogs. I murdered it. And I was aiming for 75, but at 74, I'm happy.
But there's one upside to all of this. In 2019, winners of the contest earned a $10,000 prize. And hey, if someone can consume 74 hot dogs in 10 minutes, why not make a little money off of it? Kids love hot dogs, and parents love feeding kids hot dogs too. Mostly because they're inexpensive, easy to make, and guaranteed to be eaten by even the fussiest of eaters. Unfortunately, the long, lean tube shape of the humble hot dog is practically identical in shape and size to a human esophagus. According to Johns Hopkins Medicine, choking on hot dogs is the leading cause of food-related choking in kids under 3 years old. So while your little one might want to eat a hot dog the way you do, it's best to slice or mince their dogs into much smaller pieces. And it's not just the littlest kids that you need to think about. According to an article in the Washington Post, choking on food is the 19th leading cause of death in the United States, with about 17% of food-related choking deaths being attributed to hot dogs. So maybe everyone should start enjoying their hot dogs differently. It's not like it'd make them any less delicious. Shake Shack, for example, has a mean, flat-top style dog, which uses hot dogs that are sliced in half before being grilled. And hey, anything to save a life, right? Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more mashed videos about your favorite foods are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.